So, A Man Called Otto is the American remake of the Swedish film A Man Called Ove. I think I'm pronouncing that right. It's been a while since I've seen that film. Um, this is a fairly sweet film about an old guy who decides that kind of his life is over and thinks that, the only way out now is just to kill himself, but keeps holding off on that suicide because all the people in his neighborhood kind of need him for one thing or another, and he realizes that life is worth living for a little bit longer. So it's more or less kind of like the same as like the 2015 film. I think it came out in 2015. And the thing is, it has a lot of the same things that I liked and disliked about the original Swedish film. The main thing that I disliked is that it just felt like that the film was just kind of meandering a little bit too much. Like it was just kind of like spinning its wheels, trying to find stuff for the old guy to do, and that it didn't quite like come together as much as I'd like it to. That it just meandered a little bit too much. And this American version kind of does that too. Although I gotta admit, like, I think here's the thing: like, a great performance can actually like boost up a film to make it like a little bit more better. And I actually kind of like A Man Called Otto a little bit more than the Swedish version, just because I think the sincerity and the chemistry works a little bit more here. That I was a bit more invested. Like there's still like the saccharine and corny moments that came with it, but they're a little bit easier to swallow just because I think the performances work so well. And that's mainly because the central character of Otto is played by Tom Hanks, and Hanks just makes this role work so well. He's he's perfectly portrayed as this like grumpy guy who wants nothing to do with anybody. He just inhabits this role so well, and I think it's because like you're kind of like used to like seeing Tom Hanks usually as kind of like a little bit more of like a chipper person, even though he can go like angry and bitter. And it was interesting to see that side of him again in this type of film, just because just the way he carries himself and how he mutters and makes these kind of like eyebrow raising expressions are just so wonderful that you just can't get enough of them. And it makes you feel for him where, after, he's been let go from the plant and he doesn't like anyone in his neighborhood. He, his wife died long ago and he feels like all the opportunities are gone. To have these small moments come for him where he realizes like, okay, our neighbors, they need some tools, or they need their furnace fixed, or, one of them needs to learn how to drive. I'm going to, sure, I'll come to their aid and I'll make it work. And yeah, and there's, in terms of like changing the original story, there's a few aspects of it that they Americanize to make it more relatable. They also update it more to make it seem like more relevant. Like at one point, in order to save the block, they have to get in touch with like a social media journalist. And one of the most interesting aspects, I was surprised that they changed and actually made it a little bit more progressive and kind of like gave it a reason to kind of like remake the story, is that in the original story, discriminated against, and the old guy just takes him in and just says, okay, nobody should treat you that way. In this film, Otto takes in a young trans kid who was kicked out of his parents' house for being trans, and he has a relationship with Otto's wife, who is a teacher, who is apparently the first person to actually call Otto by not someone joked when like I told him like A Man Called Otto is very pro transgender, and so that does Otto become Otto woman or something? It's not like that, no, but no, it was sweet that like this young trans kid was like, oh, your wife taught me, and she was the first to address me the way I wanted to be treated. And so you get to like love Otto a little bit more as like he realized that you need to treat human beings with respect. Like he still hates his best friend for going with a different car model, which is petty, but it's kind of a relatable old guy thing. But that I like that Otto just is fascinated and just very compassionate, where he lets down that grumpy facade slowly as the film goes on. in between all those like dark moments where he is contemplating suicide, he gets closer and then he's kind of like pulled back by thinking about his wife. Which are I'm surprised. I liked how there was kind of like a little bit of like an earnest nature to going through scenes that I felt could have been, that could have misfired. And to their credit, they are a little bit like corny with trying to stress how like, Otto needs to keep living and that he needs the spirit of his wife to keep going. But after a while, it kind of worked its magic on me where I'm kind of like, okay, I can kind of dig where this is going. Like, it's Otto trying to do the right thing and having him be fascinated by realizing there's more to this life than just being grumpy and angry at everybody. Kind of works here. For as simplistic as it is, I like seeing Tom Hanks kind of like slowly warm up to everybody, especially when, especially considering like he has this condition where he has an enlarged heart, which is going to like, lessen his lifetime. And do not think the film is above making the obvious joke here with him, with him having a cold heart and it being big, and you get it. They go about it. And to its credit, there's some genuinely funny stuff here, and the film's kind of like curmudgeon-y ways. Like at one point, Tom Hanks gets really pissed off at a hospital clown for taking his favorite quarter, which is, it's equal parts silly and sincere because obviously, as we learn later, the quarter means a lot to him. Like it was like a keepsake of his wife and something that he treasures deeply. But at the same time, it's funny just to watch Tom Hanks get really angry at a clown. So it works. It kind of works on both levels. It's like for the sincerity and the absurdity of it, it's surprisingly sweet that I think it actually works a little bit more than the original. And mostly just because the other characters are so lovable. Like his neighborhood is just filled with the best people that, even when they have a history with him, they kind of like tolerate him. You have these new neighbors and young people who are just kind of eccentric. They always want to talk to him. They always want to be there for him. They bring him meals. They're kind and heartwarming. And it's a lovable film that, it has a little bit of like, like the progressivism that you'd like to see in this type of story. It has some fine performances, and just it has as corny as it sounds, it has a good heart. And for having that genuine nature, for as corny as it get at times, it mostly kind of works. And oddly enough, like a lot of people are just, not oddly enough, it's Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks is on the poster. A lot of people are going to go this just to see his performance, and he kind of knocks it out of the park here. It's pretty damn sweet, and I actually fell for it. Like after like halfway through, I was like okay, this is good, but it's not really getting me. And then the more I went, it's like, okay, you know what, this kind of worked. I'm kind of digging this. It's sweet. It's heartfelt. I could sense a lot of people in the audience were getting a little bit choked up towards the end there. And it's just, yeah, it's a generally heartwarming film that I think works a little bit better than the Swedish version.